Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rachel Sabasic-Luxton, the Director of Research and Training here for the Dibble Institute, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all to today's webinar, Helping Healers Heal by Completing the Stress Cycle. We're honored and thrilled to have Carol Frame and Joe Cruz here to present on this topic, and I'll introduce them in just a moment, but before I do, a couple of housekeeping things. We're going to go ahead and get to the technical questions. So if you can't hear this presentation, please exit the webinar and opt to call in on your phone. That usually helps, or exit out of the webinar and then come on back. We also want you to take a quick second, if you can, and locate the hand on your GoToWebinar control panel. We're just curious to see how many of you are new to the Dibble Institute and see if this is your first webinar. So if you can, if this is your first webinar with us, please go ahead and click that raise hand button. I don't know if we can do the stats, but we've got a couple of new people here, so we're glad to have you on the webinar. I'm seeing more hands being raised as we wait here. So welcome everybody to your first Dibble webinar. We are so glad to have you here. It's going to be a very interactive webinar, so I want to get ahead and say that the presenters are going to be asking you to reply at several points throughout the webinar. We're going to be using the questions box, or the Q&A box, to reply in. So take a moment to find that and get familiar with that. And with that being said, we are going to have about 10, maybe 15 minutes at the end of this session for Q&A, but because there's going to be so much engagement throughout the webinar, before it's time for questions, I do ask that you please hold all of your questions until the end so they don't get lost in the other responses. We'll be monitoring the box, but again, if you can, please wait until the very end until we open it for Q&A before you submit those questions. And also, so everybody knows, there is going to be a recording of this session, including the slides, that'll be posted and sent out several days after the webinar is completed, so take a look for that. Now, with that being said, because there are a couple of you who are new to us, I want to go ahead and introduce you to the Dibble Institute. And for those of you who might be wondering how we got our name, on the slide here, you're going to see a picture of Charlie and Helen Dibble, who are the founders of the Dibble Institute. Charlie did a lot of work with youth during his retirement, and he saw a lot of them having difficulties around their relationships, or when their parents were having difficulties within their relationships, the impact that it had on those youth that he was working with. So Charlie had the brilliant idea to translate research into teaching tools that could be made widely available. So while the Dibble Institute isn't a direct service provider, we developed research-based practices and make them available for people and organizations throughout the country and beyond. So let's talk a little bit more about kind of our reach so far. We are a national independent nonprofit organization. We have clients in all 50 states who are providing direct services. And last year, based on our conservative estimate, we believe that the clients that we work with reached just shy of 15,000 youth based on the materials that were purchased. So we're very grateful to all of you who are here doing the important work with young people. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that and say thank you. A little bit more about us is kind of what guides us, which is our mission, and that's to help young people feel empowered with skills to build and sustain healthy interpersonal and romantic relationships. We know when having conversations like this with young people, it pulls a lot of levers, so pregnancy prevention, dating violence prevention, mental health, job readiness, and even more. In addition to being guided by our mission, we also are guided by our values. The first one that we're going to talk about is research. We are big believers in research. All of our programs are research-based, and we continue to strive for evaluations on our programs to demonstrate their impact and their effectiveness. So that also means that updates are made to our program as we learn new information. Another value of ours is that we believe in safe, stable, and healthy or nurturing families of all different formations, and this is our goal for young people, to have these families and to be raised in them. And lastly, we believe that relationship education is for everyone. All of us can improve our relationships, and we can make sure that our programs are reflective of that. So that's a little bit about the Dibble Institute. We'll have the opportunity for you to sign up for our newsletter at the end and learn more about us for those of you who are new. But let's go ahead and turn our attention to why we are here today, which is our fantastic presenters, Carol and Joe. I want to give a little bit about their backgrounds before I turn it over to them. So Carol provides consultation and training support to support providers who work with trauma-exposed clients. As a social worker, Carol has many years of experience working with children, youth, and young adults, as well as overseeing multiple projects at the University of Louisville. Recently, she and Joe Cruz, her co-presenter, co-founded In Without. It's a nonprofit that supports youth development professionals and other providers in finding and sustaining wellness through meaningful workshops and retreats that foster reflection, create connections, and inspire action. Joe Cruz is an independent consultant, trainer, quality coach, and external assessor. She has over 20 years of experience working with youth and families, specializing in impoverished communities. She's worked with populations in multiple states as well as internationally, and her personal mission is ending unhealthy cycles through child advocacy and adult education. It's a goal she strives to reach in all consulting and personal endeavors. So with that being said, I am glad to turn it over to our presenters. So Joe and Carol, welcome.
Welcome to Completing the Stress Cycle. I'm Carol Frame. It's great to be here today. My colleague Joe, I know, is on her way, probably figuring out how to click that button so she can join me here as well on screen. We welcome you to our training today. I want to first give a shout out to Emily and Amelia Nagoski, who have well researched this phenomena around completing the stress cycle, and they've written a book called The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. We are pulling out one piece of that book because we think it's a phenomenal piece that's extremely helpful for people who work with others, for youth development professionals, for folks who work in nonprofits, to be able to manage our stress in our personal and our professional lives. So just want to make sure we're giving a shout out to the Nagoski sisters for the inspiration for this workshop and also some of the pieces of it. Joe, I'm going to turn this over to you. Oh, nope, can't hear you yet. You've got to find that mute button over on the side. So I'll keep rolling, and while Joe is looking at her laptop and figuring that out, we can go to the next slide.
I may be able to help unmute Joe. Let me check that out and see if I, okay, 1 second. Okay, Joe, I think I unmuted you. Do you want to try again?
Yes, here we go. Can you hear me okay?
We don't have some tech difficulties.
Welcome.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Carol, for filling it. I appreciate it. So yes, welcome. We will go ahead on to the next slide. Again, like Carol said, this is completing the stress cycle. We'll get into a little bit more of what that is, but first, we're going to go over the objectives. So here are our objectives. To understand the neurobiology of stress, to learn and practice several evidence-based strategies to complete the stress cycle, and then to discuss how to implement these strategies in youth programming. We can go to the next slide. We're going to kind of be moving through these with this short period of time that we have. So creating a safer, braver space. These are the things that we're going to ask you to do. We know that you all can't communicate very much with each other, but we want to feel your participation through the no screens that we have here, right? So we want you to be present. So if there are things in front of you that will create distractions, we ask that you just remove those from your space. We want you to be curious, open, and respectful, to have fun and definitely laugh. Participate through challenge by choice. You have no option but to do that because you can only type into that Q&A area. If you were in person, we would be doing a lot more, but we are here and we are happy to be here. And then the last is to honor intent, but understand impact. Sometimes we intend to say or do one thing, but the impact can be a lot different. So be aware of that. And we can move on to the next one. We're going to get into our quick icebreaker. So in the chat box, you don't have to put all this information, but if you will, put your name and your favorite way to relax. Your name and your favorite way to relax. What does that look like for you? And I'll kick it off as Rachel begins to receive the responses. One of my favorite ways to relax is to be in a space like this. It's to have the wind blowing, to have the birds chirping, to have sounds and sights and the things around me, you know, because I'm in tune, but I'm also able to just take a sit back and just be within it. So what are the other things that you all are liking to do, favorite ways to relax for you?
We are seeing Miriam likes a massage. We've got someone from Safe Alliance who says, do absolutely nothing, which I feel that. Beck said reading in my gazebo area, doing art, expression through music. All right, they're really flying in now. So we've got Kylie, walking in nature is a favorite way to relax. Somebody else said reading, sleeping. We've got more painting and music. We've got exercise. Another one says massage therapy, puzzling, gardening. More walks, sound baths, a lot of movement, seeing and listening to music, reading. So the person who asked, where do I respond? My chat isn't allowing me to do that. Right in this Q&A box. So go ahead and write your Q&A and I'll be paying attention to that. I'll do a couple more. So we've got watching a matinee movie, walking on the beach, a hot shower, gardening and drawing, video games, and like I said, more music and reading.
Awesome, amazing, wonderful ways to relax. Shout out to the person that said do absolutely nothing, because you know, like how often do we do that and truly do that? So that is a beautiful way to relax. Just a reminder that there are so many different ways to do it, and the way that you choose to do it is the way that you choose to do it. As long as you are relaxing, then you are good to go. All right. We're going to get into some things as we go throughout this training. I'm going to encourage you. We can't see you, but we're gonna get moving to the latter half. I'm going to encourage you to do some stretches, whether that is just arm stretches or you're using rolling your wrist like this or rolling your ankles. Do some movement, right? So you're not just sitting, you know, in front of this screen for an hour. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead on to the next portion, and Carol's gonna give us some information about stressors and stress responses.
Thank you, thank you. So yeah, we use the word stress a lot, and it means a lot of things to a lot of different folks. So we're going to dig into that a little more deeply because it can be really helpful to understand how stressors activate stress responses in our body, and there are things we can do to decrease that stress response. That's the overall picture, and let's dig into it a little bit more as far as stressor. So a stressor is a challenge or threat that causes worry, difficulty, or tension. I know Joe just invited you to do something beautiful by sharing something that helps you relax. Now I'm going to ask you to do the opposite. Sorry in advance. Share some stressors in the chat box right now. What is stressing you out? And I'm going to keep talking while you do that. But stressors are things you see, hear, smell, touch, taste, or imagine that could potentially cause you harm. They can be real or imagined. They can be threats. They can be external, meaning maybe money is often a stressor for folks, or time, or a toxic work environment. Sometimes we have family stress, discrimination that can be very micro, or they can be on a systemic level. We also experience internal stressors, and that's where we might be overly self-critical or connected to perfectionism, have self-doubt, or a history of trauma can show up in ways that cause internal stressors. So Rachel, do you want to share out some of those stressors that folks have shared in the chat box?
Oh yeah, it's interesting that you said toxic work environment. That was the first one that came through. So abrupt change, not having a routine when work is chaotic, time pressure, a full calendar, uncontrollable financial situations, family emergencies, bills, uncertain federal funding. Let's see, too much to get done, not enough time, funding cuts again. I think that a lot of people are feeling that right now too. Money, work, office environment, work and excessive demands, issues with family, adult children, connected to perfectionism, change, stressors, meeting deadlines, perfectionism, a lot of uncertainty, loans, tariffs, receiving bad news, secondary trauma, health and finances. So I think that's kind of
that really ran the gamut of all kinds of internal, external stressors. Some smaller, but they can feel real big. Some worldwide stressors. We're feeling it right now, especially working in the nonprofit world. We're really feeling a lot of the stress. So let's move forward and talk about some things that we can do about this. So again, just a reminder, we looked at stressors. Now, a stressor, one piece that I haven't talked about yet is that it activates a stress response in our body. And you can go ahead and click and we'll look at what a stress response is on this same slide here, Kim, thank you. So a stress response is when our mind and body has a response to that stressor. So our brain notices the stressor and activates a stress response. That's a neurological or hormonal activity that initiates a physiological change to help us survive. In other words, our body is flooded with hormones. We get into that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Most of you are probably familiar with this. That survival part of the brain takes over. Our body get filled with adrenaline, cortisol, blood rushes to the muscles. Our heart can beat faster. We might breathe more quickly. Muscles might tense. I clench my jaw a lot. So many times I notice suddenly I'm clenching my jaw. Why am I doing that? I'm just carrying this internal stress that maybe I'm not even aware of. We might become more alert or vigilant. All of those bodily changes that happen when we face a stressor are considered our mind and body stress response. Our entire mind and body changes in response to that stressor. And that's natural and normal, and it's part of life. That's just how it works. Stress is part of life, and our body is going to respond to stress. It was set up to help us survive, and that's how it works. The problem is when we stay in that stress response. When we stay in stress response, we start to have more long-term physical and mental health outcomes. Short-term, which can turn into long-term physical and mental health outcomes. We also might start slipping into compassion fatigue and or burnout in our work life and even in our personal life. And some folks end up hospitalized basically because they've experienced toxic stress long-term and their body has held on to that stress, and that can turn into some significant physical and mental health outcomes that are really a challenge for us to manage. So let's move forward to the next slide, and we'll go into this even just a little more deeply. There are two big takeaways related to stressors and stress responses. The first one is removing the stressor doesn't mean we've managed the stress response. Like I said, we can get stuck in that stress response. So let's say I go to work and I have a terrible day at work. It's just one of those days. We're facing some funding challenges. I have some coworkers who are particularly challenging. I get really bad news and I'm carrying a lot of stress at work. If I go home, maybe even face some bad traffic, and if I get home and I can't stop thinking about work and I can't entirely relax, and then I have insomnia and I'm still thinking about work and my body is still holding that tension, maybe I get a headache or I start having digestive issues, that means the stressor, my work for the day is gone, but my body's still holding on to that stress. So that can be problematic. And then the second key takeaway is that we don't have to remove that stressor to manage the stress response. So even when I'm at work and I'm having that no good, very bad, terrible day at work, and that stressor is there, I can still manage my bodily stress response even when the stressor is happening. So what this means, and this is actually really great news, I love this piece of this workshop. This means that resilience is for us to be able to move in and out of stress, whether that's bad stress, exciting stress, adventure, to calm and presence and being grounded. And we're fluidly moving in and out because we're managing our bodily stress in healthy ways. That's what it means to build resilience. The idea is that we have to do something to signal to our bodies that we're safe. And that's what we're going to be doing in the second half of this workshop. What are the evidence-based strategies that communicate to our bodies that we're safe so that we can manage that stress response and then return and look at the stressor a different way or continue to function in our lives in ways that make us happy and healthy and whole. So we can go to the next slide and look at the body stress cycle. So first of all, the stressor occurs, part of life, it's going to happen. Secondly, second step is that our stress response is activated. We feel that stress and our body is having that stress response. And then third, either the stressor can persist or the stressor might end. What's most important is that we move to step 4, whether the stressor is continuing or whether it ends. Step 4 is where we deactivate the stress response. That's where we communicate to our body that we're no longer in stress. And we can do that even if the stressor is persisting. We can still communicate to our body in that moment that I'm taking care of myself and I'm going to create safety for myself in this moment. Once we do that, once we allow our bodies to know that we're safe, we move into the rest recovery period and our bodies start to heal from any damage from being in that toxic stress. And then we move to step 6 where the stress cycle is complete. So again, this is a very natural way that our bodies move through this cycle. Unfortunately, in 2025, we often get stuck at step number 2. and we stay in that stress response activated place. And I know that you all know what I'm talking about. When you're just carrying that stress and you can't figure out how to let it go, and it's persisting day in and day out, and it even starts to accumulate because we're not going all the way through the cycle to allow ourselves to reset before the next stressor comes along. Now, why do we get stuck in that activated stress response? There's a few reasons why we might get stuck. One, chronic stress. We're just stuck in a stressful situation. A lot of you talked about toxic work environments, day in, day out, continual stress can really invite us to stay in that stress response. Sometimes it's just socially appropriate. We're in a situation where something creates a lot of stress for us, but it would be inappropriate to respond in a way that would relieve stress. So we have to put a smile on our face and just manage it. And that can get us sort of stuck in that stress response activation place. And lastly, sometimes we just, for safety reasons, we need to be safe in that moment, and we don't allow the stress response to come out in a way that would help us feel better because we need to just watch our safety. That can be a real concern at times. All right, so this is how the body stress cycle works. Again, we're focusing on not getting stuck at 2. Even if the stressor persists or ends, we've got to get ourselves to step 4. We've got to deactivate the stress response. So what are ways to deactivate the stress response? These are evidence-based ways, and the good news is they're not bad, they're enjoyable. So let's go on to the next slide, and we'll start getting into what are ways to move through the stress cycle.
We're actually going to do the completing the stress cycle polls. So we'll have some questions put up, and we'll ask you to answer them. So the first one is, how often do you move your body? For example, walking, dancing, playing sports, lifting weights, hiking, doing yoga, gardening. And you can select one. So never, 1 to 3 times a year, monthly, weekly, daily, or almost daily.
Seemed like when we asked that relaxation question in the beginning, I heard a lot of folks walking. So I'm wondering how that's going to show up.
Ooh, oh, wow.
People daily, wow.
Wow, you all are getting it. Awesome. All right. All right, our next question. How often do you focus on your breathing? For example, deep breathing, meditation, belly breathing, yoga, or Tai Chi? Same selection. So never, 1 to 3 times a year, monthly, weekly, daily. Ah, okay. So about a third of us that are practicing it daily within this one. There's more of there's a never. Some of you are probably like me, where you forget to breathe throughout the day. I mean, you have to practice breathing. That's what it sounds like. Okay. All right. We will go to the next question. How often are you affectionate? For example, hugging, petting an animal, high-fiving, getting massage, or cuddling? Never, 1 to 3 times a year, monthly, weekly, or daily. I'm going to answer that for you all in front of you all and say daily, because my fur babies would not allow me to walk in the door or out the door without rubbing on them multiple times. Oh yeah, 85%. We must have some animal lovers or some huggers, cuddlers, right? So we're doing that. That looks like our best one. All right, good stuff. How often do you interact with others in a fun and or meaningful way? Small talk, support groups, or dinner with friends? Never, 1 to 3 times a year, monthly, weekly, daily, or almost daily. Fun or meaningful ways, interactions with others. Okay. All right. 39% are doing it daily. Got about 22% doing it monthly. That's really good. And 34% weekly. All right. All right. All right. How often do you laugh? Tell jokes, watch a comedian, act silly, watch a comedy. How often are you laughing? And I don't know if you like to scroll like me sometimes, and sometimes I get that that one algorithm where everything is just really silly and ridiculous, and I might stay with that for a bit of a while. So, oh wow, yeah, 75%. Yeah, sounds like, yeah, sounds about right. Oh, this is actually really good to see. So 0% are at a never, and 0% are at 1 to 3 times a year. So everybody is doing some laughing at the very least monthly, but more than likely weekly or daily. That's awesome. Okay, all right. All right, how often do you creatively express yourself? Visual art, music, fashion, gardening, writing, cooking. Just because you see it on this list doesn't mean that this is an extensive list. If you call something creatively expressing yourself and you're doing that, just tell us how many times. Never, monthly, daily. Let's fill it in. Ah, very nice, very nice. Okay. We have a 1% that is a never. All right, we're gonna bump that up today for you. Promises. All right. I think we might have, do we have one more poll? How often do you, oh no, I think we did the breathing. So I think we are good. So we want to thank you for being a part of that poll. And we want to help you bump your numbers up. So today we're actually going to do some practices. So we're going to practice some of these specific evidence-based strategies. And we're going to go to the next slide.
Joe, I'm just going to chime in and say
Please.
that overall, affection is the highest, followed by laughter, then movement, then socializing, being creative, and folks on this particular caller, like breathing isn't doing it for me. I don't slow my breathing. I don't do that intentional breathing piece, which is fine. Affection, laughter, movement, social, creative, and breathing. So part of this workshop is naming what you're already doing well and realizing its connection to moving through the stress cycle, and then getting invited to do something a little bit differently or a little bit more. Go ahead, Joe.
Can you say that one more time? Affection, laughter, moving.
Social, being creative, and then breathing.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Carol. Appreciate it. All right. So this is the part of the completing the stress cycle. We've got all the other parts of the stress cycle. We've got them, right? We know how to experience. We experience the stressors. They come at us. We have no, option but to receive them. But this is how we complete them, or begin to complete them in different ways. And this is movement. All right. So this is the single most effective way to complete the stress cycle. It communicates safety to the brain and the body. But there is a key. It's not just movement like doing, some neck stretches and doing all that. We need to move enough to breathe deeply at least 20 minutes on most days, or whenever you're doing it, we need to breathe deeply for about 20 minutes or more, right? A practice is having movement snacks for 10 minutes every 50 minutes. So if you're at work and you're at work for 8 or 9 or 10 hours, and some of us more, for every 50 minutes, get you a 10-minute movement snack in, even if that is just walking to go to get a water break, walking to go ask someone a question instead of sending that email, doing that movement. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some movement. I asked you to do some stretches. Hopefully we did some stretches. I didn't want you to start moving without having a little bit of stretches in. So we're going to allow you to choose by choice whatever movement you want to do that will actually get your heart rate going. Okay. So no stretches. We want you to move, right? Do some jumping jacks. No one can see you, right? So there's no judgment here. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to set a timer. Do we have, I won't set a timer for this one because I don't want to sweat on this one because I'm going to be here and doing the rest of them. But I'm going to do this for about a minute. Carol's doing some twists, but I'm trying to get my heart rate up a little bit without sweating too much while I'm doing this session, right? And we want good movement. You're only going to have to do this for a couple of minutes. That's it. So give it as much as you can.
Now, we know some of you folks are checking your email right now. You're saying, I don't need to do this. This is silly, but it's amazing. I'm just rocking back and forth, and I can feel the endorphins already. I can feel the difference, and all I'm doing is rocking back and forth, and I can feel the difference. So we invite you to jump in and do a little bit of movement, and then notice what happens in your body, and notice what happens with your mood.
And if you are checking emails, at least check it like this, right? Just add some fun to it, okay? Let's get like 30 more seconds of pushing, 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 and moving, moving, moving. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. All right. Rachel, I hate to do this to you, but throw in the chat box how you feel real quick.
You are good. I'm ready for them to come through. And I was
All right.
walking on my treadmill while, checking the Q&A box and answering stuff. So
Thank you.
let's see. People are saying, feeling good, energized, wonderful, out of breath, awake now. So glad I had a chance to move. Some jumping jacks, pumped, ooh, vibrational, refreshed, out of breath.
Awesome.
Back in my body.
Oh, I love that. I love that for you. I love that for you. And thank you, Rachel, Rachel is completing the stress cycle because she is walking, and we appreciate her for doing that, because that only keeps her mental together and keeps us going as well. So thank you for that, Rachel. All right, we're gonna move on to the next portion, right? And this is breathing. This was our lowest one, right? This was the one that we said we spent the least amount of time on. But breathing is so great and so beneficial. I used to not be a believer of breathing, and someone told me to breathe, and I was like, how am I supposed to breathe through this, right? Like, I can't breathe through this. I have truly honed in on my skills and learned the power of breath, and I hope that you all get to that point as well. But we're just going to challenge you to try it. We're just going to ask you to try it today. That's all, right? So deep, slow breaths, they down-regulate the stress response, right? It's the gentlest way to regulate the nervous system, and it's simple breathing can start to unlock your trauma. These are the keys at the bottom. At least 1 minute of practice is okay if you have lots of thoughts. And you want to exhale completely or belly breathe. You could do box breathing, or exhaling is twice as long as you inhale. I love to do belly breathing when I wake up in the morning. I just put my hand on my belly before I even get up and get out and do anything. And I just watch my hand kind of raise and lower as I breathe, right? But today I'm going to ask you all to do something. We do something called Take 5, and it'll help us to breathe deep in and out, okay? So when you say take 5, you might need to take 5 because it might be a stressful, situation. And what you're going to do is you're going to start at the base, and as you go up your thumb, you're going to breathe in. And as you go down your thumb, you're going to breathe out. And you're going to go throughout the entire hand at your own speed, okay? That might have felt like a lot, but I'm going to ask you to go to the next hand and do it on that hand as well. If you begin to yawn, don't feel bad. That is actually your brain saying, okay, I'm in a safe space, okay? So let's do the other hand at your speed. All right. There are a lot of different ways that you can breathe. There are so many different ways that you can breathe. I encourage you to look up different ways that you can do it, and I encourage you to practice it. Just try it out. All right. It sounds like it's one of the things that we all need within this session. All right, we're gonna switch to the next one. The next slide, sorry. and that is completing the stress cycle through laughter. There are many benefits of laughter: lowering cortisol, protecting the heart. But the key is to deep belly laugh, right? Not the we don't want polite laughter. We want to hear it, right? We want to hear it from the gut, all right? So the practice is to laugh with others, to reminisce about laughing in the past. Maybe some event took place and everybody was laughing and we reminisce about that, or to even watch comedies. So I'm going to ask you to throw in your favorite movie or comedy or maybe even joke. Throw it into the chat box, and Rachel's going to give us some information on the responses that you all provide. I tell you, one thing that I like to do that really tickles me is watching my dog play with bubbles. If I blow bubbles, my dog will flip out, and she just has a ball with it. So that's something that does make me laugh. What about you all?
Y'all, Talladega Nights is the dumbest movie that's ever been made. And while I am cracking up watching it, I'm saying, this is so stupid. What through my laughter? It's so silly. And I laughed the entire time.
Love it.
Okay, I've got a couple of jokes, and I'll share some of the other things that people have said. So this is, did you hear about the rainbow that got arrested? It went to Prism. No worry, not to worry though, it was a light sentence. That one made me giggle.
Good one.
We got Big Bang Theory, 10 Things I Hate About You. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
What do you call a fish without an eye? And I love that there's going to be a recording of me doing that now out on the internet. Funny animal videos, Gilmore Girls, Bridesmaids, reruns of Friends, The Office, or Rush Hour. Let's see, Shrek or White Chicks and Friday. Jump scares when playing video games. Let's see, Married with Children. Oh, yeah, that is a throwback. A classic. Shrek, scary movies, favorite jokes, Modern Family, so lots of stuff. Laughing Babies, mom jokes, 21 Jump Street. Yeah, some of the things that came through.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. All really, really good things. I love to hear babies laugh. Those, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. And
one more joke came in. Do you mind if I share it? This is the last joke that came. All right.
Please.
Why do seagulls fly over the sea? Because if they flew over the bay, they'd be bagels.
Okay. All right. We got good ones. We've got good ones here. We need to have a session of just jokes.
Yes.
Were you going to add something, Carol?
Oh, I was just going to recommend the comedian Josh Johnson. I don't know if you all have discovered him yet. He has a new piece every Tuesday night. You can find him on YouTube, and he manages to take what's happening in the world and find the funny side of things while still having a lot of integrity and values. Every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, free on YouTube. So check him out.
Thank you for that, Carol. Awesome. All right, we're going to go to another strategy that we can utilize. This is a potential activation warning. We don't want you we're going to ask you to do something, okay? So positive social interaction, casual friendly interaction is a sign that there's kindness in the world. So the key is to challenge yourself to initiate friendliness. And the practice can be a lot of different things: complimenting others, connect with friends, family, and coworkers. Something that I do when I have it and I'm able to give it is I do like to, if I'm in, a fast food line and I'm just like feeling that way, I'll be like, let me pay for the person behind me, right? What I find is that it always somehow comes back to me within like the week. Oddly, it's really odd. So it's almost like a twofer because I get to, feel like I'm doing something for somebody else or, complimenting somebody else, but it comes back to me. But what we're going to ask you to do is we're going to ask you to connect with friends, family, or coworker that you haven't spoken to or that you've, wanted to just kind of connect with. So we're going to ask you to pick up your phone and we're going to ask you to text somebody or write yourself a note. If you're like, absolutely not, I can't do that right now. I don't want them to send me messages back. Write yourself a note to connect with someone directly after the session. Okay. So find a person. I'm going to go to my cousin who I love this cousin. Whenever we're in person, we have a ball. We crack up. We do the hearty laughter and not the polite laughter, but we don't get an opportunity to talk very much. We're not texty type of people. So I'm going to text this cousin. we're going to allow you to create a text just to reach out and say hey to someone. I love you, I miss you, or, you know, hey, let's do lunch sometime, something like that. Okay. So a connection with someone. And Carol, if you had anything to say about it, you can throw it in there now.
This communicates to us that the world isn't a terrible place, that there are kindnesses. Even, I don't know if you're like me, if I go to the grocery store and I just have a casual conversation with the cashier, I just leave with a little bit of lift. Believe it or not, that is an evidence-based way to complete the stress cycle, because you're telling your brain, hey, the world's not all bad. There are actually some kind people in the world. We're all in this together. It's okay. So yeah, look for ways to either have deep, meaningful connections with those closest to you, or just casual conversation with people you don't even know.
Thank you for that, Carol. Yeah. I wrote my cousin. I said, hey, cuz, I love you and I miss you much. I hope you are having an absolutely amazing day. Guess what? She probably won't respond to me until like tomorrow, right? But I've initiated that conversation, and you know, we can begin something. Our conversations look like months in between, so that's fine as well. But you know, it is what it is. If you want to throw in the chat, just throw in the chat the person that you reached out to, friend, family, coworker, you know, kind of gauge where we're going with this.
And while those are coming in, I do want to say, someone just wrote in saying, I am loving this training. Thank you so much for having it.
Oh, thank
And they
you.
also shared the seagull joke. So shout out to the person who submitted the seagull joke.
A seagull, not a bagel. Every time they eat a bagel now, I'm going to laugh.
Right.
So we've got brother, sister, a couple of people reached out to friends, somebody in their team, friend and coworker, community partner, again, sister, friend, niece, cousin, boss.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you all. All right. Well, we only have a couple more. So we will go to the next one. This is affection. So the benefits of practicing affection are lowering blood pressure and heart rate, releasing the hormone oxytocin. I always pronounce it incorrectly, but releasing that hormone. The key is affection with someone that you trust, right? And the practice can be a 20-second hug, some form of safety, love, support from a higher support from higher power. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to ask you to rub your hands together. Okay. So we're going to just rub our hands together, and we might get a little bit faster, a little bit faster. And then you can choose a place on your body that is bare. It might be your face, it might be your arms, and you're going to gently put them on that space. Okay. Just feel it. Just feel your own love for a second. And then we're going to do it again. And we're going to gently rub. We're going to get to the point where we're rubbing a little faster and a little bit faster. And then so fast you create a fire in between your hands, and then put it on a different part of your body. Maybe your elbow. Feel it. I can feel the warmth from the sun. So the heat from my hand is not comparing, but if you're in an office, I bet you're really feeling this, right? All right, we're gonna do a one last good time, and we're gonna start off slow. Carol's getting into this. I'm loving seeing you getting into this, Carol. And we're gonna start off a little slow, and then we'll speed it up a little bit, and go as fast as you possibly can. And with this last one, we're gonna give ourselves a nice, strong, warm hug. But we're gonna hold this hug. We're gonna hold this hug like we haven't seen each other in like 20 years. And we saw each other out of nowhere. So you want to feel it. You want to feel the warmth and the love from yourself. Maybe you rock a little bit, because sometimes that feels good and safe. And then you could just breathe. And that is your affection for the day. Well, not for the day, for this session, for the couple minutes that we did in this session. All right, we have one last practice. Oh, no, we don't. We have two more. I'm sorry. Creative expression. So art, storytelling, it allows us to celebrate and move through big emotions, helps us to process the past and our feelings. The key is just to use your imagination. The practice or view literary, visual, or performing arts, visualize what you need, joy, celebration, peace, connection. Sorry, the sun is in the way, but I'm not mad at it. I'm loving it right now. So what I want you to do is, if you can, grab a piece of paper and a pen, or just have your brain handy, which I'm hoping that it's here, right, with us. And I want you to just think about a place that you want to travel to, right? It can be any place that you want to travel to. And I want you to go through the senses of that place, okay? So you want to think about what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it smells like. You might eat something while you're there, so what does it taste like? And what does it feel like? And we're just going to sit in our imagination to this place that we're traveling to for just a minute. And just because I'm wondering, if you throw your place in the chat box, let's see how many people got the same place that they'd like to travel to. Just because, because I want to know. Some of the things that I think about when I travel to different places and spaces, and this might sound odd, but I think about the birds and I think about the nature, because it seems like there's always some different type of tree that I've never seen, or like the leaves don't look like anything that I've seen where I am, or there's a bird or an animal that looks just a little bit different from what I typically see. But Rachel, you're seeing any locations in that chat box?
Oh yeah, I'm seeing Ireland. Several people said the beach.
Oh yeah.
Haiti, Bali, Jamaica. Oh, another Ireland. Italy, Copenhagen, Egypt. And this one made me giggle. Any beach, because Ohio is not it. I have family in Ohio, so I felt that one a little more closely, I guess, too. We've got the ocean, Seattle, Washington, water, sun, trees, Australia, and Willa, and mountains.
Awesome.
Oh, there's more. Japan, Redwood Forest, Cancun, Japan, Greece, Spain, Italy, and then upstate New York. All right, now I'm working.
Awesome. I'm going to Japan in 2 weeks, so that is actually what I was visualizing. So I'm excited about that. So yes, Japan, yes. All right, we'll move into our very last expression. So we're not going to ask you to cry, okay? We're not going to ask you to do that. But a part of completing the stress cycle is crying, okay? So crying is a physical expression of stress. It allows the emotion to move through the body instead of getting trapped in our body. The key is to pay attention to the physical experience of crying rather than the source of the stress. Okay, Carol, I feel like you want to say something about that. No? Okay.
Say something. Crying doesn't usually solve a problem, but it really can help you move through that stress activation place so you can get to a place where you might be able to think more clearly to solve the problem. That's my only addition.
So the practice is to watch a tearjerker or movies to go through the emotions with the characters, right? I used to, when I would watch movies, I would like hold back and try not to cry in front of people and do that. And now I'll allow my tears to fall, right? Because I know that it's a part of a process that I need to be a part of. And it's a difficult thing for some people. Some people don't like to cry in front of others. Some people just don't like to cry in general. So make it safe for you. Make it safe. Find yourself alone and put on that tear jerker or put on that thing that makes you cry and allow yourself to bawl out. It's helpful. So if you will, throw in the chat box really, really quickly something that it may be a movie that is a movie that always makes you cry, but maybe it's a good cry, or something that, it can bring tears, but they're, it's tears of joy and tears that allow emotion, heavy emotion that is good. And I'll say, oh, sorry, Rachel.
No, you're good. Go ahead. There's still coming.
I was just gonna say, I always find a Disney movie or a children's movie that always, I don't know why, they always make you cry, but they're always like really good and happy feeling towards the end of it. And I like that. That feels safe and good for me.
I got emotional over a snippet of Homeward Bound because I remembered that movie and I was like, oh no. My husband's like, they survive. And I was like, yeah, but they went through so much.
Right?
So we've got The Natural with Robert Redford, thinking about how often children are told not to cry. I cry when I laugh, so I shed tears all the time. Finding Dory, a lot of people said music, and different types of music. Steel Magnolias, The Notebook, the movie Beaches, Marley and Me. We bought a zoo, An Affair to Remember. Someone said I cry whenever I watch nearly any movie, so it doesn't matter the genre.
Yes.
We've got some more Disney movies and things coming in as well.
I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I want to thank you all for humoring us and being a part of that. We're assuming that you're doing all the things back there, right? We can't see you all, but we're assuming. And by your responses, it sounds like you are. Carol's going to give us, she's going to summarize some of these strategies, go over a couple more things, and then we're going to end us out.
Yeah, so we told you that these strategies are evidence-based. They help you complete the stress cycle. They can take anywhere from 1 minute to as long as you want to spend doing these activities that are healthy for ourselves, for our mental health and our physical health. I do want to mention, we don't have sleep or rest on this list, and it's definitely a way to complete the stress cycle, but we find that sleep/rest is a workshop in and of its own. There's so much confusion. So many people are challenged to figure out how to rest and how to sleep well. We have an entirely different workshop that we can do around that, but please know that rest is also a way to complete the stress cycle. So as you take a look at this list, obviously the key is to find what works for you. When possible, combine them. So I'm going to ask, while I talk a little bit more about some of these pieces, if you can think of an activity that combines 3 or more of these strategies, throw that in the chat box. I'm curious to see if you can get creative and think of, for me, like line dancing. Last night I went line dancing and I was moving, my breath changed, I was laughing because I couldn't get the steps, I was interacting with others. I was so relaxed after I went line dancing. So dancing is an easy way for me to do several of these at once. I knew I was completing my stress cycle. How do you know when you complete it? Your body will tell you. You'll be able to feel more relaxed in your body. So listen to your body around whether or not you've completed the stress cycle. Step 1 is managing the stress cycle. We do want to try to eliminate stressors when possible, but it's hard to do that when we're in a state of stress. So once we practice this lowering our own state of stress, then we can look at what stressors can I control, or maybe I can make some shifts in my life to decrease stress. Some of them we can't control, but some we might be able to. As always, look for improvement, not perfection. Joe and I are very anti-perfectionism. So when I've had times in my life when I've experienced toxic stress day after day, week after week, month after month, I wasn't going to the next day go on a 20-minute walk and rid myself of that toxic stress. Would I feel better after 20 minutes? Sure. Is it going to take more than one 20-minute walk to bring myself to a long-standing state of lowered stress? Yeah, it's going to take some time. So look for incremental progress as we're learning to detox from the stress that we sometimes could feel like we're almost addicted to. How do we apply this to the work we do in nonprofits and working with youth? Every interaction is an opportunity to harm or heal. I know that sounds tough. I'm going to say it one more time. Every interaction with coworkers, with youth, with our family is an opportunity to harm or heal. So this work really starts with us. How do we heal ourselves? How do we get as grounded and as present as possible so that when we show up, we're showing up out of a healing space? You all have probably heard about emotional contagion. We have neurons that mirror other folks' state of being. So if we show up grounded and present and positive, others are going to mirror that, and we can create an environment that is more positive, that is healthier, that is more whole. So if we had a little more time, we would talk about your organization, you, and where you're strong in this, and some growing places in your organizational culture and climate. How are some ways you can implement some of these strategies within your organization? But I'm keeping an eye on the time, and I know Rachel said we would have a little bit of time for questions. So we can shift over to that. Rachel, maybe some folks put in there some activities where they combine several of these strategies if you want to call a few of those out.
Yes, I do. Oh,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
And then we can move forward if there are any questions. We're happy to answer those.
So we had walking with a friend in nature, Zumba, breathing practice while running, singing in a choir, yoga class, gardening, painting, making a beautiful sourdough bowl. Like, I'm so impressed by people who can do that. It's not much. Playing basketball, the gym, team lunches. And I do want to go back because a question did come in. So Carol, if you don't mind, the name of that comedian you recommended, could you share that out?
Sure, Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson, great, thank you.
He's a young guy, he's kind of up and coming. You can find him on YouTube very easily. And by the way, if you like this information, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, this is just step one. They move into, I think it's like a 10-part process. And so you can take this even further. But Joe and I just love this section because it feels so manageable. And oftentimes we're already doing some of these strategies. It's just a matter of being intentional and making sure they're happening at times when we're stressed so we can lower our stress level and show up in really grounded ways. We can move forward to the next, probably we can move forward a couple of slides.
These are just some of the, oh, go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, Joe and I are In Without, and we didn't say why we named our nonprofit In Without. We provide experiences for people to reflect inward, connect with each other, and then work outward to build a positive community. So that's why we're In Without. Our tagline is helping healers heal. And I think, Joe, if you want to talk about the slide.
Oh, no, this is just some of the professional development workshops that we offer for teams. We also customize for organizations. We truly believe in not checking off the box. We believe in holistic, solutions to issues that people are facing, and trying to make the world a better place by making ourselves a better place and teaching other people how to do it as well. So just some of the things that we are able to offer are listed here.
Feel free to use the information in this webinar today, share it with other folks in your organizations to have conversations around how to implement these strategies at work and hold one another accountable in completing the stress cycle. There's some really creative ways you can do that. If you're facing a crisis or just low-grade stress or long-term stress, or a lot of ways that you collectively can complete that stress cycle and build a healthier workplace culture. Again, we are Carol Frame and Joe Cruz. We're In Without, and it was our pleasure to share this information with you today. We wish we could see your faces. This is a different way for us to provide info, but it's been a lot of fun. Joe?
I was just going to say we have a few minutes, so if there are a couple of questions in the chat box, we can open it up to that. But I did want to say, when I went to look at my phone for the time, my cousin responded back, and I can't believe she responded back right away. She said, "Hey, I love you and miss you too. Wish the same for you." So that was a win for me, y'all. I appreciate that.
I love that. I haven't seen any questions, but a lot of thank yous from folks. Great job. People really enjoyed the activities and the presentation. So thank y'all so much for taking the time to share those, more than just one resource for folks, and engaging them in a way that seems to be really impactful. I know it brought some smiles to my face reading the chats and engaging with folks throughout. So appreciate the time that y'all spent today sharing this information with folks. I want to say thank you to everybody else too who was here and who engaged and who participated. Like I said, a lot of fun reading what was going on in the Q&A there. Just a reminder, there's going to be a brief survey at the end of this webinar. We appreciate you taking some time to complete that. It shouldn't take more than just a minute, two, depending on how much you want to say. But the webinar will also be available in about 3 days. There's a link to our webinar archives. We'll also be sending out an email with a link to the recording. And like I said, with the recording, you will see a PDF of today's slides. So you'll have access to all these little reminders so that you can continue these practices outside of today's session. As a friendly reminder, we have our next webinar coming up on June 11th. It's Mind Matters, an Intervention for Substance Use and Misuse Prevention. We hope to see you there. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye, good people.